Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at a stack of sources that, frankly, they challenge one of the most fundamental questions there is. Who are you?
Mm-hmm.
We're cutting right to the core of this really revolutionary concept. The idea that your identity, your attitudes, your reactions, your entire emotional state is all rooted in a constant, invisible chemical conversation.
A conversation happening between your brain and your body. That's absolutely right.
So today we're doing a deep dive into that, the science of the thinking and feeling loop.
Exactly. And the mission for you, the listener, is to really demystify how your thoughts, which feel so intangible, right?
Right, they're just thoughts.
How they become a physical, chemically defined state of being. We're going to look at the massive chemical factory between your ears and how it orchestrates your entire body.
And the sources are pretty clear. If you want to change, you first have to become greater than the chemical cocktail you've been running on.
That's the challenge.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Let's start with the nuts and bolts. If thoughts are creating this physical reality, what are the messengers? What's actually carrying these instructions?
To get that, you have to meet the main players. The sources point to three primary types of chemical signals. They connect to your cell receptor sites, and they act almost instantly.
In milliseconds.
In milliseconds. And we can group these under one umbrella term, ligands. It's just a scientific term that means to bind.
To bind. So they bind to the cell and tell it what to do.
Precisely. They are the agents carrying the message.
Okay, so walk us through those three. What's the hierarchy?
So first up, you have neurotransmitters. Think of these as the brain and mind chemicals. Their main job is sending signals between nerve cells.
Inside the brain itself.
Right. They can excite the network, slow it down, change the message. They manage the brain's internal chatter.
Got it. So they're the neural network messengers. But how does a thought, get out of the brain and tell the rest of the body what to do?
That is where the second group comes in. And they are, arguably, the most critical, the neuropeptides.
Neuropeptides.
They're the majority of these messengers, and they're made deep in the brain, in the hypothalamus. These are the bridge.
The bridge between brain and body.
Exactly. They get released via the pituitary gland with very specific instructions. They are the direct link between a thought pattern and a bodily response.
And then the feeling itself.
Yeah.
That's the third part of the chain.
That's the hormones. These are what you're really feeling in the body. That lingering feeling that can last for minutes or even hours.
And they get turned on by the neuropeptides.
They do. When those neuropeptides attach to tissue cells, especially your glands, they signal them to start production. So, to simplify, neurotransmitters are the thought, neuropeptides are the command, and hormones are the feeling.
That sequence it's just staggering when you see the examples. Like, take something purely mental, a sexual fantasy.
Perfect example.
That thought fires neurotransmitters. That signals neuropeptides. They hit the right glands, turn on the hormonal system, and suddenly the body is preparing for an experience.
That hasn't even happened yet. It's preparing ahead of the event.
Yeah.
The mind is literally creating a future state in the body.
Or the total opposite. Confrontation. You're just lying in bed thinking about some argument you had 3 days ago.
We've all been there.
Right. And those thoughts fire neurotransmitters, which signal neuropeptides to, go to your adrenal gland.
Exactly. And that triggers adrenaline and cortisol, the stress hormones. You haven't moved an inch, but now you are chemically ready for battle. Tense, fired up just from a memory.
And this incredible transaction, this sets the stage for the main event of this deep dive. The thinking and feeling feedback loop.
Precisely. We've just seen the mechanism. You think great thoughts, you make chemicals that make you feel great. That's the first half. We feel the way we think.
But the brain isn't just sending orders out, it's listening.
It is a monitor. It is constantly surveying the chemical feedback it's getting from the body.
So if my body is flooded with, say, inspired chemicals, my brain notices that and thinks more inspired thoughts to match.
Exactly. And this is the reversal that changes everything. We begin to think the way we feel.
And that cycle. Thinking produces feeling. Feeling produces more thinking.
Creates a unified, continuous state of being.
And that state gets cemented into who we are, our identity. We stop saying, I feel anxious, and we start saying, I am an anxious person.
Or, I am suffering. The mind and body have merged. They are now one single chemical entity.
And this is where the sources give a really stark warning.
A critical one. If you let your body's familiar feelings dictate your thinking, if you can't think greater than how you feel, you cannot change. Change, real change, Means being greater than your body's chemical habits.
Let's use that practical example for the sources.
Mhm.
The one about driving to work, stuck in traffic, thinking about a coworker.
Right, so you're thinking about that confrontation from days ago. That thought releases the angry chemicals, the stress hormones.
The body gets that message.
It does. And it sends a signal back up to the brain that basically says, hey, I'm ticked off down here. The brain, monitoring this chemistry, feels obligated to generate more angry thoughts to justify why the body feels that way.
It becomes a chemical spiral. The body's in the driver's seat now.
Completely. The body is driving the mind. You arrive at work after running through this whole internal litany of complaints, and you're just a walking, talking model of anger.
And the problem is, when you do this every day, for years.
You hardwire those circuits. The body gets conditioned to remember that emotional state suffering, anxiety, guilt, better than your conscious mind does. It becomes a habit.
Which leads us straight to that 95% rule.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that by our mid-30s, 95% of who we are, it's just a series of subconscious automatic programs.
The body is running the show on autopilot. I mean, think about driving. A seasoned driver isn't consciously thinking, okay, check mirror, press brake, turn wheel.
No, you're drinking coffee, you're listening to the radio.
Exactly. The body has memorized it so well that the actions just happen fluidly without any conscious thought.
It's pure physical memory. Like you can't remember a phone number, but your fingers just dial it.
That's a perfect analogy. Your body knows. The body has become the subconscious mind. And the conscious mind, which should be the master, has sort of gone to sleep.
And the servant has become the master.
The servant is running the whole show. We only appear to be awake and making conscious choices for a tiny fraction of the day.
This is such a critical point. So if 95% of me is on autopilot and the conscious 5% finally wakes up and says, okay, I'm going to change this, why is it so hard? Why does the body fight back so fiercely?
It's a chemical addiction, pure and simple. The body has become addicted to the chemicals your mind produces. Let's use that guilt example from the sources. Someone who's felt guilty for 20 years.
Okay.
Every single time they have a guilty thought, they flood their system with guilt chemicals.
And over time, the cells, they adapt to that.
They have to. The receptor sites on the cells, they get desensitized. They're just constantly being bombarded. So to feel normal or even just to register as alive, the cell needs a stronger hit of that emotion.
Like a coffee drinker needing a stronger fix just to function.
Exactly like that. And here's the kicker. When those cells divide, the new daughter cells are born with fewer, less sensitive receptor sites. They are literally born demanding a higher threshold of that emotion.
So you physically engineered an addiction to feeling guilty.
To guilt, to anger, to suffering, yes, it's a biological reality.
And that explains why change is so agonizing. When that person tries to stop feeling guilty, the body goes into instant withdrawal. It needs its fix.
And it fights back on two tracks. First, there's the fast track. The body sends this sneaky, urgent protest message right up the central nervous system.
And that sounds like what?
It's that subtle internal chatter. You're too tired today, start tomorrow, this positive thinking. It doesn't feel right.
And if that doesn't work, there's a slow track.
If the subtle approach fails, the hypothalamus alarm system kicks in. It detects that the familiar chemical environment has changed and it panics. That's the slow track. The body-mind starts to actively tempt you. It starts picking on you. It conjures thoughts like, don't you feel bad about what you did? You'll never change. You're a loser, a mess. It's trying to get you to think the thought that will create the chemical it needs.
And if you listen to that, you fall right back into the old program.
Mental amnesia. You forget you were even trying to change.
Which is the definition of the past trap. Because feelings are a record of the past,
Yep.
So reliving those feelings keeps you chemically anchored there. 2047 Volin. So how does the 5% ever win?
Well, this is where the sources shift from, this deterministic science to the science of possibility. We have to get past the old myth of genetic determinism.
The idea that our genes are our destiny.
Right. We now know less than 5% of diseases are from single gene disorders.
No.
A full 95% are related to lifestyle, chronic stress, toxic factors, things we can control.
And this is the field of epigenetics. Above genetics.
Yes. The breakthrough understanding that the environment controls gene activity from outside the cell. Your genes are not static. They're in constant flux, influenced by your emotional states.
I like the analogy of DNA as a library of blueprints on a computer.
It's a great one. You aren't changing the underlying code, but external factors like new thoughts and feelings can change the expression of that blueprint, change the color, change the size.
So by changing our thoughts, we are literally signaling ourselves to express new proteins, changing our genetic destiny.
And the negative side of that is really compelling too. Chronic anger or anxiety literally pulls a genetic trigger for disease. It causes genes to wear out, to make.
Cheaper proteins, as the sources call it.
Exactly. Which over time looks like atrophying muscles or sagging skin, physiological breakdown.
But the body can also be activated to change in the opposite direction, just as fast. The Japanese study with type 2 diabetics is a perfect example.
That study is incredible. It really changes how you think. They took insulin-dependent diabetics, and before a meal, one group watched a boring lecture.
And the other watched a comedy show.
A comedy show designed to make them feel deep, heartfelt joy, laughter.
And the lecture group, their blood sugar spiked into the danger zone, as expected.
But the joyful group, the ones who had laughed for an hour, their blood sugar rose by only about half that amount. And the key discovery was that the laughing subjects had altered 23 different gene expressions.
Just by feeling joy.
Just by feeling joy. Their state of mind sent signals that allowed their bodies to naturally regulate blood sugar. Emotion changed biology.
And if we needed one final piece of proof, there's that 1992 study on finger strength.
The ultimate evidence for mental rehearsal. They had one group physically exercise their fingers. They got a 30% increase in strength. Totally normal.
And the second group, they did nothing, physically.
They only mentally rehearsed the exercises. For 5 hours a week, they never moved a muscle.
And they still got a 22% increase in muscle strength. That's unbelievable.
The body changed, physically and biologically, by thought alone. It proves you can train your brain and your body to look as though an experience has already happened.
So the takeaway isn't just think positive. It's a real scientific process of unwiring old chemical programs and consciously reprogramming the body to a new mind.
Emotionally conditioning it for a future reality? Exactly. When you have rehearsed a future until your brain and body have physically changed, like that 22% muscle increase, the event has, in a way, already happened. The sources suggest the physical event then finds you.
And that change is evidence that the event has already transpired in the quantum world of consciousness.
That's the theory.
So that leaves us with a profound challenge today. If your body can physically change, just by mental effort alone, proving that the future you want is biologically possible right now, what potential future are you going to emotionally embrace and condition your body for, starting today?